Single dad's incredible recipe for crying baby exposed, transforming the mom into a billionaire. Mike stood in the dim glow of his kitchen, cradling Sophie in his arms. She was wailing again, her tiny face scrunched up in distress, and he wondered how one small human could create such an overwhelming chaos. He rocked her, desperation clawing at his insides. Every day felt like an uphill battle against exhaustion, bills looming like dark clouds over his head. The neon flicker of the coffee maker was a constant reminder that he hadn't slept in days, and each cry from Sophie echoed in his mind, amplifying his fears. Was he enough for her? Could he ever provide what she needed? With each tear, he felt the weight of the world pressing down harder, suffocating any hope he had left. He pulled the fridge door open, searching for inspiration in the shelves filled with leftovers and a few ingredients that might inspire a miracle. Memories of his grandmother's sweet potato casserole floated through his mind. It had been a dish filled with happiness during family gatherings, a dish that held the power to bring comfort and warmth. Could it really work? Drawing on nostalgia as fuel, he began to draft a version for Sophie. Each sweet potato peeled and sliced became a whispered promise to her, a silent vow to create moments beyond this suffocating fog of crying and colic. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the casserole baked, the kitchen filled with the sweet aroma that brought him back in time, he looked down at Sophie, who had finally quieted down. She stared at him with wide, curious eyes, as if sensing his determination to offer more than just survival. Amazed, Mike found himself feeling a spark of hope flicker to life. Would this be more than a momentary distraction? Could his culinary dreams finally intersect with the relentless reality of single parenthood? Yet, lingering shadows soon crept back in. What if this became his only claim to fame, a fleeting moment in time? Would he ever escape the clutches of this suburban grind? While the casserole was a small victory, his financial burdens loomed like an insurmountable wall. As he dealt with the impending foreboding of corporate life and the impersonal systems that threatened his aspirations, anguish settled in. The world outside his kitchen felt like it's closing in, promises of stability became overwhelming pressures. He turned to see the casserole bubbling inside the oven, an emblem of his efforts to turn chaos into something meaningful. Suddenly, he felt a surge of determination. This was not just a meal. It was a legacy. But as excitement coursed through him, doubt nagged at his edges. What would happen if someone else took the credit? If corporate vultures descended to exploit his small triumph? The sensation of betrayal ignited a fierce resolve. In that moment, he understood that it wasn't merely about achieving success for himself, but for Sophie's sake too. Yet the road ahead grew stark, full of uncertainties and questions that twisted his stomach. As he placed the casserole in front of Sophie, watching her giggle in delight, he faced a heart-wrenching truth: he would have to confront the swirling vortex of jealousy, ambition, and expectation that chased after him like a storm, threatening to tear apart both his culinary dreams and the fragile bond he was forging with his daughter. The sound of the oven timer snapping Mike back into reality. He opened the oven door, releasing a steam cloud filled with the aroma of roasted sweet potatoes, cinnamon, and brown sugar. The casserole had transformed into a vibrant golden dish, its warm colors contrasting sharply with the dullness of the day. This moment felt monumental. It was his first true culinary success since becoming a single dad, a beacon of light against the mundane struggles that filled his days. Mike served a small portion into a bowl, his hands trembling slightly with both anticipation and dread, and watched as Sophie gingerly brought a spoonful to her mouth. Her expression shifted from uncertainty to sheer delight, and a rare smile broke across her face. In that instant, everything felt right. Yet, Amid her joyful giggles, a persistent voice in his mind whispered reminders of the challenges ahead. Even if he could create something beautiful in the kitchen, what about the rest of his responsibilities? Could this be the breakthrough he needed to provide a better life for Sophie? Determination washed over him. He had devoted hours to mastering the art of his grandmother's casserole. What if this passion could blossom into something substantial, a brand, a blog, even a cooking show? The idea sent ripples of excitement throughout him, mingling with fear and self-doubt. Could he really break into an industry that seemed exclusionary and flooded with seasoned professionals? Could he stand toe-to-toe with giants who would consume his dreams if he faltered? As Sophie savored her meal, Mike began to visualize the next steps. He could share recipes online, capturing moments of their cooking together. Perhaps he could even film short videos. The world loved authentic, relatable content, and his challenge might resonate. He grabbed his phone, fingers hovering over the screen. With a few taps, he could document the joy of cooking for a crying baby, a journey marked by triumphs and mishaps alike. But what if it fell flat? The thought of potential failure was suffocating, yet simultaneously, it ignited something within him. This was not just about building a platform for himself, this was about carving out a future for Sophie, instilling values of resilience, creativity, and hard work so deeply embedded in him by his grandmother. The moment spiraled inward, revealing deeper yearnings to overcome his insecurities. How would it feel to turn passion into a profession that thrived on love and vulnerability? He imagined how the world would respond, visualizing faces lighting up when they saw a single dad learning and growing amidst chaos. Could he turn Sophie's cries into a launchpad for a greater existence, into a narrative that could not just beautify their dinner table, but also empower others? While pondering these aspects, Mike felt something strange, almost instinctual. He needed guidance, but who in his current life could provide the vision he sought? The disconnect between his dreams and reality felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, peering over the abyss. Would he leap, or would he look back with regret? The burgeoning ideas hung in the air, tempting yet treacherous, urging him forward. He picked up Sophie, cradling her tightly. She giggled, unfazed by the weight of his introspection. Could his search for career fulfillment align with being the dad she needed? The answer felt just out of reach, hovering tantalizingly close yet still tinged with doubts. As Mike rocked Sophie to sleep, shadows fleetly danced on the walls of his mind. Hesitations lingered thick like the dense scent of casserole that now filled the air. The undeniable question loomed: the time had come to face not only the world outside, but the storm within him, waiting to be unleashed and transformed into something more than just an ordinary life. The morning sun streamed through the window, warming the kitchen where Mike stood, ready to take the first brave step toward his dreams. He was surrounded by a half-finished breakfast spread of pancakes, scrambled eggs, and the last remnants of his casserole, each dish a testament to his budding culinary skills. But instead of relishing the moment, anxiety nibbled at his resolve. He craved something beyond just a kitchen success. He longed for a connection with the world, a purpose that resonated beyond the confines of his home. After putting Sophie down for her morning nap, he slid his phone from his pocket and opened the Notes app. What should he begin with? The dilemma was colossal. Did he write about his experiences juggling parenting and cooking? Maybe share the occasional misstep that seemed more relatable than polished? He could already imagine the comments from other parents, rallying them to create a community around their shared struggles. But the empty page taunted him. He paced the room, something his grandmother would often do when deep in thought, recalling the unwavering determination with which she approached each goal, no matter how daunting. Her voice echoed softly in his mind, reminding him that nothing worth having comes easy. Mike could feel her presence like a weighted blanket, urging him to break free from the shackles of doubt. Just as resolve began to kindle, his phone buzzed with a text notification. It was his brother, Jason, who hadn't been particularly supportive during his transition to single fatherhood. "Hey man, hope you're doing okay. Thought you might want to catch a game this weekend." The invitation felt like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it offered a brief reprieve and brotherly connection. On the other, it resurfaced the unspoken resentment that had grown since Mike's life changed drastically. Would he be judged for his new path? Would they dismiss his culinary ambitions as an irrelevant hobby? He stared at the message, weighing the comfort of familiarity against the urge for innovation and growth. Should he reply with openness, inviting Jason to witness his journey, or keep hiding behind excuses, fearing judgment? Ultimately, he opted to respond positively but suggested they meet at his place, where he could showcase his efforts. That felt like the first step towards claiming his new narrative, one built on pride instead of shame. As he prepared for their meeting, Mike decided he wouldn't just serve food, he would craft an experience. He picked up his phone again to search for recipe cards and cooking tips, determined to elevate the simple breakfast into something extraordinary. He told himself that this could turn into an opportunity, a potential stepping stone to his character and skills. Perhaps even Jason would see him in a new light. Yet, as the hours ticked by, doubts crept back in. What if he bombed the breakfast? What if his brother didn't take him seriously? Each doubt manifested like a knot in his stomach, tightening with every failed image of imagined failure. Could he find confidence within these walls? Or was he destined to remain unseen, a spectator rather than a participant in his own life? While the scent of pancakes wafted through the air, Mike confronted his reflection in the kitchen window. It was time to embrace discomfort whatever lay ahead. He may never reach the heights of his aspirations without first grappling with the ground beneath him. As Jason arrived, a blend of anticipation and apprehension stirred within him. To rise, Mike knew he needed to unearth the messy, vibrant stories that anchored his passion for cooking and for nurturing Sophie. The conversation held promise, but it came with a silent acknowledgement this could very well alter the trajectory of his ambitions. With that thought, he opened the door, ready to unleash the narratives worth sharing, those buried beneath layers of self-doubt and fear. The moment had arrived to break free, or would it instead be yet another reminder of the risks that scarcely paid off? The door swung open to reveal Jason, standing there with a casual smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. A friendly greeting was exchanged, but Mike could feel an undercurrent of skepticism in his brother's posture, a silent challenge waiting to surface. Was he just being paranoid, or could Jason sense his apprehension? Mike ushered him into the kitchen, where the breakfast spread lay ready, a visual kaleidoscope meant to impress. The warm scents mingled with the vibrant colors of the pancakes he had artfully stacked, and the rich golden hue of the scrambled eggs beckoned for recognition. Still, a thread of anxiety snaked around his thoughts. This breakfast was not merely a meal, it was the cornerstone of his burgeoning self-identity. "Wow, you've really outdone yourself," Jason commented, feigning enthusiasm, but Mike sensed the half-heartedness behind his words. The intensity of Jason's gaze momentarily flickered with something unreadable, stirring Mike's resolve. He took a deep breath, fortifying his internal narrative, and served the first plate. As they settled down at the table, he sought the right moment to steer the conversation toward his culinary aspirations. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about cooking and how it's not just about making food. It's about creating moments, and memories." He winced internally. Was he rambling? Would Jason roll his eyes? Instead, Jason leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, signaling a mix of interest and skepticism. "Memories? Come on, Mike. Food's just food. Let's get real here. You really think you can build a career in this?" That question struck a chord, one that resonated deep within him. In that moment, Mike recognized it wasn't merely boredom sparking Jason's skepticism, but genuine concern. Yet doubt began to bubble, threatening to choke him. Could he defend his choice? But instead of scanning the room for excuses, he locked eyes with Jason, the flickering spark of resolve igniting to a steady flame. "I actually do. I've been writing about my experiences balancing cooking and being a single parent," he articulated, his voice gaining strength. "I want to help others feel connected through food, even when it seems overwhelming." Jason's brow raised slightly, a flicker of surprise quickened by skepticism. "Really? That sounds kinda ambitious." What do you expect? To become some food influencer? This was a knife-edge moment. Mike had a choice, to withdraw and shield himself with sarcasm or embrace the unvarnished truth of his aspirations. He leaned forward, his voice steady. Why not? Cooking has been transformative for me. I want to reach out to others who struggle. It's more than just cooking, it's about community, connection, right? Like you really think people give a damn about some dude's kitchen fails? Jason interrupted, his tone sharp. For a moment, silence enveloped them, a thick veil of tension. Mike's stomach twisted, but he saw an opportunity beneath Jason's derision. The energy between them was a catalyst, propelling Mike forward rather than retreating. Yes, they do. Not everyone wants meticulously polished photos. Some just want to see the real side, the mistakes, the mess, the laughs. Just like I've had to embrace my mess throughout this journey. The air shifted subtly. There was a pause, and Mike anticipated a dismissive retort, but Jason seemed to reconsider. His expression began to soften as he mulled over Mike's honesty. Could it be that he was beginning to see the passion behind Mike's eyes? A flicker of hope ignited within Mike, spurred by the recognition that maybe he was beginning to forge the bonds he desperately sought. But just as Jason opened his mouth, the phone vibrated on the table, an incoming call, inexplicably disruptive. As Jason glanced at the screen, Mike's heart raced. Would this be another distraction? Would it shatter what little connection had started to spark? Would he reclaim the momentum now brewing in the air, or suffer yet another setback? Reality hung precariously between them, and Mike leaned in further, aware that every moment counted in. This delicate dance of sibling tension, aspirations, and the unsettling fear of being judged. The air was thick with potential change, and the threshold of this conversation could shape the path that lay ahead. He braced himself for whatever awaited them on Jason's phone. After all, he was standing at the crossroads. Decisions made in the next few moments could push him toward the realization of his dreams or lead him back to the doubt-riddled shadows he fought so hard to escape. The phone screen illuminated Jason's face, casting an unexpectedly harsh light over the fragile moment hanging between them. A tension-filled second stretched into eternity as Mike's heart hammered in his chest. He could practically feel the thread connecting them fraying, wondering if Jason's focus would stay glued to the call or shift back to the conversation that had finally begun to awaken something within them. Jason's thumb hovered over the green accept button, hesitation evident in his brow. Mike shifted, his own mind racing. He had already navigated terrain that felt deceptively familiar, encountering a mixture of hope and self-doubt. Now, all it would take was one simple decision by Jason to throw him back into the self-doubting spiral a little too familiar to him. Just when a small breath of connection had begun to materialize, would it dissipate? Do you need to get that? Mike ventured, grappling with his need to keep the conversation alive against the urge to retreat into silence. It's just work, Jason said dismissively, the phone still held as if it weighed a ton. Mike seized the moment, pressing on. Look, if it's important, you should take it. I don't want you distracted. There was a slight tremor in his voice, he was treading carefully, afraid to shatter the fragile trust they were building. Yeah, but Jason's frustration was tangible, stemming from the competing pressures of professional obligation and familial ties. Mike recognized a deeper struggle brewing beneath his brother's surface-level annoyance, a challenge balancing Elizabeth's demands with his personal life. They were perhaps more alike than Mike had previously let himself acknowledge. Maybe we can pick this up later. Mike interjected, knowing that it could be a lifeline, not just for Jason but for himself as well. A choice to step back but also not to give up. Jason looked down at the phone, fingers trembling slightly. He blinked, then exhaled slowly, allowing the moment to settle. With a swipe, he silenced the ringing, and the call disappeared from their immediate reality. For the first time, Mike felt there was space to navigate their conversation in earnest. Look, I don't mean to dismiss you, Jason finally said, a defensive edge still clinging to his tone, but it bore less bite. It's just that I've always been the one with a steady job, and he hesitated, searching for the right words. You say you want to write about cooking, but what's really stopping you? Mike braced himself. This was the kind of probing he feared. I guess fear. He responded before he could overthink the vulnerability of it. Fear that it won't work out, or that I'll fail again. And how is that different from me? Jason countered, a frown deepening on his forehead. The pressure's on me, wife, kid, bills. You know that. You get that, right? But at least I know my path. You think you have it all mapped out? Mike countered, his pulse quickening. But are you happy? The whole 9-to-5 grind, does it feel like a dead end? It's like you're boxed in, Jason. Silence stretched, but only momentarily, as Jason began to grapple with his deep-seated unease, the facade of confidence slipping. Mike felt a new wave of determination wash over him. It wasn't just his life in question anymore. Maybe he could instigate change for both of them. What if I could inspire you? Mike said, setting his fork down, conviction hardening in his voice. What if I could show you that following your passion doesn't mean abandoning responsibility? Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, what if we helped each other take the leap? For the first time, a spark ignited in Jason's eyes. A flicker of curiosity mixed with confusion. The battle lines had shifted from skepticism to interest. Okay, I can be on board with that, Jason conceded, a hint of a smile breaking through. But how do you plan to start this writing journey if nothing ever goes according to plan? Mike grinned, feeling the weight on his shoulders lifting. I've got a few ideas. But it might require me stepping out of my comfort zone, and maybe you could help me navigate that. In that moment, a sense of purpose coursed through him, a chance to not only embrace their shared journey of self-discovery but also a possibility of a rekindled brotherhood. But before he could build on that, the buzzing phone on the table became a not-so-distant reminder that responsibilities awaited. Take it, Mike urged, this time with renewed assurance. Let us not lose momentum. Whatever that call is, we'll deal with it. And you can count on me to figure this out one step at a time. As Jason reached for the phone, Mike felt the tug of foundational change solidifying. He was ready to embrace the messiness of this journey, to reflect on his capabilities, and to confront the looming uncertainty by pursuing his dreams. But would Jason follow him beyond the call, or would the weight of expectations tether him once more? The buzzing ring of uncertainty echoed in Mike's mind as Jason finally took the call, leaving Mike teetering on the edge of newfound potential. Could he solidify his aspirations without losing his anchor? The sound of Jason's voice faded as he answered the call, casting Mike into a solitude clouded with anticipation. He was left with the very real question of how he could light the path ahead. In that flickering moment, the idea struck him he would start with the only thing he felt confident about, the bridge he had always been drawn to, cooking. As he sat there, the streets bustling beyond the window, he could visualize the recipe he would craft. The bubbling cauldron of chicken and roasted vegetables had become a creative haven during his darkest days. The transformation of raw ingredients into comforting meals became more than a necessity, it was a metaphor for his life. If he could convey that through writing, maybe he defined his voice, his stories intertwined with flavors and experiences that resonated. He jotted down ideas on the napkin in front of him, thoughts tumbling forward layered with inspiration and hope. Maybe just one dish at a time, he murmured quietly to himself. One meal that embodies transformation, just like me. Each stroke of his pen captured the essence of not just food, but the journey, the courage it took to transform fears into flavors. But aside from the thrill of creation lingered a new heaviness. Doubt threatened to creep back in with ferocity. What would others think? Would anyone care about the tales interwoven with each recipe? Would they find solace in kitchens just like he did? The lingering voice of self-doubt itched at the corners of his mind, whispering past failures and echoing fears. Just as the panic escalated, Jason's tone shifted. Mike could see from his brother's body language that whatever had been said was stressing him, and his phone call might not go as intended. As he focused on Jason, who appeared more agitated than he had been moments before, Mike felt an unexpected resolve. This was part of the journey, it was clear that his passion could navigate not just his uncertainties but potentially bridge gaps for Jason too. Maybe that's what he needed to focus on, not just his own burdens, but helping Jason find his way through this storm of responsibilities. Challenges awaited, but he sensed a collective strength blossoming in this unforeseen partnership. For the first time, both felt the promise of a shared journey, navigating each pitfall together. As Jason ended the call, his features softened, revealing weariness that masked under layers of frustration. Mike knew he had to strike while the iron was hot. "So, what are we cooking up next, chef?" he said with a light-hearted chuckle, eyeing the crumpled napkin filled with his notes. But instead of laughter, he was met with a contemplative silence. "I don't know, Mike," Jason sighed, his gaze unfocused. I feel like I'm drowning sometimes. Maybe I need to find something for myself like you're trying to." The revelation crashed over Mike, the truth stark and undeniable. There was an emerging vulnerability beneath Jason's gruff exterior, a yearning for growth much like his own. It was the kind of revelation that stirred something deep inside Mike. Clarity over shared pain could be the guiding light they both needed. "We can do this together," Mike asserted firmly, leaning forward to introduce the idea of collaborative cooking sessions that could spark both of their passions. "Let us explore recipes that not only excite us but open doors to writing, to your journey as a father, to everything that holds us back. We can mix culinary adventures with storytelling." Jason's eyes glimmered with tentative hope. "You really think it could work?" "I do," Mike replied, his voice steady. "But it means showing up, cracking open those flavors outside our comfort zones. We tackle it all: vulnerability, cooking, and writing. What do you say?" For a fleeting moment, the weight of their individual struggles felt lighter, buoyed by the buoyancy of possibility. They were on the cusp of something significant, but as Mike's own question lingered in the air, an unsettling thought shadowed his excitement. If they leaned into this exploration, would they have the tenacity to confront their inner critics? Or would they falter at the first challenge? Mike's resolve strengthened, but the question hovered, a thunderhead waiting to burst as they prepared to dive headfirst into this uncharted territory. Would they emerge victorious or washed away by waves of their own insecurities? The path ahead was uncertain, but that uncertainty bristled with possibilities. The moment of truth was coming and they needed to decide just how far they were willing to leap. The setting sun cast a golden hue through the flickering window, wrapping Mike and Jason in the warmth of the early evening light. It felt as though the universe conspired to boost their spirits, but beneath this comforting backdrop lay an undercurrent of tension. The exuberance of possibility was palpable, but their conversation had been touched by a somber truth: they were teetering on the precipice of a shared vulnerability that threatened to pull them both under. As excitement and dread intertwined, Mike sensed the urgency of their task. "So, we need a plan. How do we start?" he asked, breaking the silence that had consumed the space around them. Jason leaned back in his chair, ruminating, the crumpled napkin bridging the chasm between them with its poetic scrawls. "We can choose a dish that we both love," Jason suggested, a spark igniting his voice. "Maybe something from childhood, a recipe that has warmth, stories mingled with flavors." "Perfect," Mike agreed, enthusiasm bubbling within him. "Let us rewrite the story through food." The notion felt transformative, a means to not only nourish their bodies but to ignite their souls. They were, after all, crafting connections between meals and memories, between brothers at odds now united by purpose. As they debated over dishes what had shaped them as kids, Mike caught a glimpse of Jason's reluctance. A flicker of apprehension crossed his brother's face. "But what if I can't find the words to go with it?" Jason questioned, the vulnerability of the moment simmering just beneath the surface. "Then we use the cooking as a catalyst. We don't have to be perfect at writing, we only need to be honest," Mike replied, pushing gently against the insecurities suffocating Jason's creativity. Cooking had always come naturally to them, a safe haven in their childhood. The kitchen was a space of aroma-laden memories, laughter, and togetherness, a stark contrast to what had often felt like a battle in their adult lives. Let us focus on what we love about the dish, Mike added, voice steady with purpose. Inspiring confidence felt more like a tightrope walk, balancing between the thrill of new beginnings and the risk of failure. A dark sense of loss danced in the corners of Jason's eyes as he held on to burdens that were long overdue to be shared. This was more than just stepping up to cook, they were, together, carving a new path against the backdrop of old wounds. Okay, let us go with Grandma's chicken pot pie, Jason proposed, a hint of nostalgia veiling his doubt. Mike's heart raced in agreement. That dish was interlaced with fond memories, soft, flaky crust cradling a medley of vegetables and tender meat, all simmered in a savory broth. I can already hear the comforting hiss of the oven, Mike said, as he envisioned their kitchen transformed into a canvas both familiar and fresh. But you know, we have to tackle the writing too. If it feels daunting, let us break it down into chunks just like our ingredients. Right, Jason mused, nodding, but there was still a lingering edge of uncertainty in his voice. I've never really thought anyone would be interested in my stories not like this. Then let us write them together, stitch them into the recipes as a testament to what we've been through. You're more than just my brother, you are a father, a storyteller, Mike pressed on, hoping to ignite that flicker into fire. As the evening waned, their infectious energy breathed life into their draft recipes and narratives. There was a growing realization within Mike, showing up for Jason meant confronting his own uncertainties, but perhaps in the warmth of shared experiences, they could motivate each other. But under this burgeoning hope, a darker thought began to take root. What if their journey, both culinary and emotional, bared wounds too raw to explore? Would the confrontation bear the weight of heartbreak, or would they find release in their shared histories? The kitchen beckoned. It was a sanctuary, yet a battleground of sorts, where both triumphs and failures would play out in stark clarity. Survival meant soldiering. Through discomfort, igniting creativity from sparks of pain. Was Mike prepared for this? For the deeper revelations sure to unfold? The answer hung unvoiced, steering them into the uncharted territories of their hearts and kitchens. The moment to act was approaching rapidly, awakening the kind of urgency that cut through all previous hesitations. With a deep, resolute breath, he took one step closer to the true challenge that awaited. Transformation demanded not just effort, but vulnerability. Would they surpass old fears, or be engulfed by the shadows they tried to escape? The stark truth awaited, just around the corner, poised to upend everything they thought they understood. The next day dawned with an odd mixture of anticipation and dread. The sun's first rays broke through the drawn curtains, illuminating the cluttered kitchen where Mike and Jason had agreed to meet. The confines of that room felt heavier now, weighted with the promise of transformation and the burden of their shared past. Mike moved about the kitchen, arranging ingredients neatly on the counter, his heart pounding as he prepared for what lay ahead, a session that would require deep introspection and collaboration. This wasn't just a culinary venture, it was a confrontation with their shared history and a shared potential for healing. As Jason arrived, Mike noted his brother's hesitance. Jason stood at the threshold, a tightness in his posture revealing the struggle within. Ready to get started? Mike asked, striving to inject enthusiasm but sensing the tension threaded through Jason's silence. Yeah, Jason replied softly, entering the space. He examined the ingredients laid out before them, and amid the aromatic herbs and fresh vegetables, Mike saw a flicker of nostalgia connect with anxiety. Just it feels like a lot, you know. The memories, right? It's just chicken pot pie. Mike grinned, but the attempt at levity fell flat against the gravity of the moment. They began by prepping the vegetables, the quiet rhythm of chopping punctuated by Jason's occasional comments about their grandmother's cooking methods, which triggered echoes of laughter and warmth. Yet, as nostalgia swept in like an unwelcome tide, Mike caught Jason's gaze stray to a faded photograph on the fridge, a snapshot of their younger selves grinning alongside their grandmother, her hands tucked lovingly around them. What do we do with all this, Mike? Jason suddenly blurted, frustration bubbling to the surface. How do we turn childhood memories into a story that matters? Caught off guard, Mike paused, realizing that the challenge transcended mere culinary preparation. this was a fundamental dilemma of self-worth. We focus on authenticity. The emotions we felt then are just as real now, he asserted. It's part of what makes this dish special. The scars, the triumphs, all of it. Jason's fingers trembled against the potato peeler. I've never shared my stories. They feel ambiguous, fragmented. What if I can't do it right? What if it's just a sad dish in the end? There's no right or wrong, Jason. This is about connecting with your truth, Mike responded, an urgency igniting within him. He understood that what lay beneath Jason's fears was a deep-seated belief that his voice didn't matter, a belief Mike had battled himself over the years. The moment hung in the air, thick with unspoken emotions. We'll write together, Mike urged. Let the act of cooking unfold the stories. Every ingredient holds a memory. Allow it to guide you. Slowly, Jason nodded, visibly softening as the realization began to settle. They resumed chopping and stirring, tempering the simmering broth with salt and pepper, the soothing cadence of cooking surrounding them. Remember the time Grandma caught us sneaking pie dough? Jason chuckled, and Mike joined in, laughter echoing off the walls. It was that moment, that shift toward lightness, that set the groundwork for the revelations yet to come. Yet, as the aroma of cooked chicken filled the kitchen, Mike wrestled with his underlying anxieties. Was he placing too much emphasis on their shared history? How would they navigate those wounds when they inevitably arose? Balancing their shared laughter was an ominous awareness of the darker moments that would demand attention. While their past overshadowed their present, possibilities began to weave into the air. With chicken pot pie finally baking in the oven, Mike felt a flicker of excitement gradually replacing the tension. The kitchen filled with warmth, and it felt as though they were not just preparing a meal but unraveling the threads of their complicated brotherhood, all while inching towards confrontation. But what Mike didn't yet grasp was that their journey into the depths of their past was only just beginning. Would they flee from the overwhelming depth of their memories, or would they find courage in vulnerability, ready to face what haunted them? As the timer chimed, signaling the dish's completion, an unsettling thought positioned itself like a specter. What awaited them next was not only the meal but also the reckoning. As the timer rang, the sound reverberated through the kitchen, cutting through the tense atmosphere like a knife. Mike's heart quickened, an exhilarating mix of hope and uncertainty flooding his veins. He opened the oven door and the warm, buttery aroma of baked chicken pot pie seeped out, wrapping around him like an embrace. Yet, the smell only partially distracted him from the undercurrents of dread swirling in his mind. Wow, Jason breathed, peeking over Mike's shoulder. That looks amazing. Looks can be deceiving, Mike replied, trying to mask the weight of his thoughts with humor. Let us hope it tastes as good as it looks. But deep down, he recognized that the dish was merely a facade for the work they had ahead of them. They were not only cooking, they were confronting a lifetime of emotions they had shied away from. They removed the pot pie from the oven, setting it on the counter to cool while both brothers took a moment to consider their next steps. Jason's brow furrowed, a sign he was internally wrestling again. It's time to write, isn't it? Jason asked, hesitance lacing his voice. Yeah, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable. Mike sought to anchor them both with reassurance. This is about exposing ourselves to the possibilities even if they feel risky. If I could, I would just want to cook, Jason admitted, frustration bubbling beneath his calm exterior. It's safer than confronting everything else. Mike nodded, understanding the allure of hiding in the simplicity of recipes. Cooking is the bridge. It connects our past with what we want to create. Let us start with the stories, okay? What comes to mind when you think of Grandma's kitchen? As Jason pressed his fingertips against the counter, memories danced behind his eyes, like flickering shadows in the corners of the room. The way she whispered secrets while we stirred the sauce, he recalled, a bittersweet smile loosening his tight expression. Those moments felt so alive. But they were also filled with pain, weren't they? Mike ventured, probing gently. Jason recoiled, a defensive nature rising within him as he bristled at the suggestion. Don't go there yet, Mike. This is supposed to be about the food, the fun, and not the drama. Food is just the beginning, Mike countered, his voice firm yet gentle. If we only focus on the easy stuff, we'll miss the real flavors. We need to add some of the tartness of our past, the sweet victory of facing it together. Let us not just write recipes, let us write the truths that make us whole. Taking a deep breath, Jason rubbed his hands together, the friction bringing physical warmth which momentarily soothed his internal chaos. Finally, he glanced at Mike, searching for something encouragement, understanding, a semblance of resolve. Okay, let us do it. Lead the way. They shifted to the table, paper and pens intertwined with the culinary tools scattered about. Words didn't come easily, each stroke of the pen felt like unearthing buried emotions. As the minutes passed, Jason began writing, his brows knitting together in concentration. Mike observed, feeling tentative threads of connection start weaving between them. Perhaps this workshop of vulnerability was what they needed most. Just as Jason found his flow, an unexpected noise shattered the focus. A loud thud echoed through the kitchen, and both brothers turned sharply toward the source. It was the photograph on the fridge, the one showing them as boys, cheeks filled with joy, eyes glimmering with innocence, now lying face down on the floor. That picture, Jason muttered, pushing away from the table. I thought I hid that. Maybe it wants to be found, Mike suggested. He stood, sensing an instinctual pull to investigate the photograph, as if it carried not just memories but unresolved issues waiting to erupt. As he reached for the frame, some deep-seated tension surged within Mike. Would looking at that image reveal forgotten truths? What other mysteries would it expose about their childhood? Mike, I'm not ready, Jason's voice trembled, quiet but intentional. The confrontation loomed, and with a tug of power, Mike turned the photograph over. What would they discover as the image revealed its secrets? It was time to face it, time to confront the past. The potential for growth, transformation, and conflict ignited all around them like a campfire waiting for kindling. Everything was about to change, but would they be ready to embrace it? In the kitchen, the atmosphere felt charged. Mike held the photograph delicately in his hands, the sepia tones bringing forth a flood of memories. It showed him and Jason, innocent children frozen in time, delighted smiles framed by their grandmother's warm presence. But as he turned it over, a shiver of doubt rippled through him. Would confronting the past tear them apart or bridge their rifts? Look at us, Jason, he said, voice steady but laced with vulnerability. We were so full of hope then. We can harness that energy, use it to power our journey forward. He laid the picture carefully on the table between them, and for a moment, nothing else existed but the silent pull of nostalgia wrapped in healing. Maybe, Jason murmured, his gaze locked on the photo as if trying to unlock something buried within. But that hope feels like it's transformed into something else now. It's harder to believe in it. It's real, Jason, Mike insisted, looking straight into his brother's eyes. We can rebuild that hope together. But we can't just focus on the good parts. We need to unravel everything. The good, the bad. All of it shapes who we are. Jason took a deep breath, the weight of the moment morphing any remnants of skepticism into raw earnestness. What if writing these truths reveals stuff we're not ready to face? Then we face it together, Mike declared with determination. This journey, this cooking, it's not just about meals, and it's about growth. Let our experience push us, make us into something more. With that rallying cry, the brothers turned their attention back to the task at hand. Jason picked up his pen again, unsteadily at first, but soon finding a rhythm as the words began to flow. Mike joined him, writing not only the recipe but also the undercurrent of stories that surrounded them. Memories of their grandmother's laughter merged with the savory smell of chicken, invoking a powerful synergy. As they wrote, Mike felt the chains of hesitation begin to dissolve. The act of sharing their culinary journey forced them to articulate their struggles, fears, and aspirations. Each sentence, each ingredient they penned together, fortified not just their recipes but solidified a new path for their relationship. "I remember this one time, Grandma burned the crust," Jason recalled, laughter creeping back into his tone. "We thought she'd have a meltdown. And she did, but she also turned it into an impromptu dessert. She always found a way to make everything joyful, even the mess," Mike said, enjoying the warmth of nostalgia blanketing them anew. As the pie bubbled and simmered, Mike and Jason continued to unravel stories and discover humor within their familial experience. They scribbled down everything: the clumsy mishaps, the heartwarming connections, and eventually how their grandmother's resilience fueled their own. The kitchen transformed from a battleground of emotions into a haven marked by laughter and authenticity. They eclipsed the shadows of their past, and amid the fragrant aromas wafting from the oven, the brothers found solace not just in their cooking but in their newfound articulation of self. However, the task ahead had not yet been completed. As they neared the end of their writing session, Mike sensed a deeper conversation was brewing, one that would require both courage and transparency. "We've made progress, but there's still more to uncover. What about our relationship? How do we really feel about what happened between us?" Jason hesitated but then looked Mike straight in the eye, his uncertainty melting away under the weight of vulnerability. "We've always avoided discussing our struggles. That's what drove us apart," he admitted. "I felt judged for wanting to preserve stability while you ventured into uncertainty. I guess I didn't want you to fail, but I saw the risk in your choices as a threat to my own capabilities." "Jason, I never meant to make you feel that way," Mike said earnestly. "It wasn't just about me. This journey is about us. I always thought you had it all together. But through this, I realize we're both navigating the unknown. We can redefine this not just as the big brother looking after the younger brother but as two equals sharing our wild dreams." Jason's expression softened, recognition dawning in the depths of his eyes. "I'd like that," he confessed, the emotional distance shrinking into the warmth of honesty. The timer rang again, and as they pulled the chicken pot pie from the oven, the steam floated into the air, releasing an enticing aroma that embraced them. The dish not only looked beautiful but held a different significance now. It represented more than just culinary success. It symbolized their commitment to growth, vulnerability, and healing. Mike set the table, and as they sat down together, something profound shifted within the room. They began to share the pie, each bite resonating differently now that they understood the flavors combined with shared experiences. As the last piece was served, Jason looked up from his plate, his eyes gleaming with gratitude. "Thanks, man. For pushing me. For stepping up." "Thanks to you too," Mike replied, feeling a swell of pride in their progression. "Let us keep this going. Let us keep cooking, keep writing, keep facing each other. Lots to be done, right?" Together, they raised their glasses, two brothers sharing a journey, each steered by the experience of cooking and the transformation they had ignited within. As Mike gazed at Jason, he recognized how far they had come from the disconnection that once defined them. This chapter in the kitchen, around the table, and within their hearts marked the beginning of a new path. They weren't merely two siblings rekindling a bond, they were emerging creators, reclaiming control of their narratives, ready to explore whatever else lay ahead. Their culinary journey was still in its infancy, but with each step and each stir, they reaffirmed their capacity to rise above their fears, emboldened by success and the layers of connection they had rediscovered. They didn't just cook together, they dreamt together, envisioned futures intertwined with resilience fueled by love, vulnerability, and healing. It was time to share their story with the world, a personal revolution illuminated by the humble beauty of home-cooked meals and the promises of kinship. Now, if you're eager for this kind of inspiring journey to continue, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't miss the exclusive emotional stories that will light your path. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly makes a difference. And please, comment below with your thoughts and reactions about Mike and Jason's transformation. Finally, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to amplify the magic of personal overcoming stories.